evening, late night freaks. I'm here to give you a read straight from the hip with lots of lip. And I want to talk about this very interesting liminal space we're entering, which is the space in between what was the Scorpio new moon solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse on the 25th of October, leading up to that full moon, full lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 8th. And this is a really significant full moon eclipse that's going to be coming up because it is the last eclipse of 2022. And so it is really tying up a cycle that got kicked off a year ago. So take a moment and just reflect back to what was going on in your life a year ago. There's a lot that's coming back around the bend. There's a lot that you're going to get a new view of. And what you see on the other side of this portal might look quite different than you thought it was. It's one of these cases where you can't really take things at face value because there's so much that's happening beneath the surface with Scorpio involved. And of course, we have the play of the nodes of destiny at hand as well. We have Taurus in the North Node position, went retrograde into Taurus back in January. And that puts Scorpio in the South Node position. And so every one of these eclipse cycles that's taking place while these signs are hosting the North Node and the South Node, or what's known as the nodes of destiny, we're looking at big game-changing elements in play for sure. But we're also looking at this piece of all the eclipses will be occurring on that axis. Okay, so that axis is like the crux of the matter. We got this dance going on between Scorpio and Taurus. And we also have Libra factoring strongly into the mix. In fact, it's these three signs that are going to be the most affected as we move through this portal. All right, so really have a look at your birth chart. Understand your natal chart. Understand where your placements are. Notice where you have Scorpio. Notice where you have Taurus. Notice where you have Libra. What action you got going on in those houses. You know, pay attention. So you really want to look at what's happening in your second house, your seventh house, and your eighth house. Those are the houses of Taurus, Libra, and Scorpio. And they're going to give you a lot of information about how this cycle is going to affect you and what themes are in play. But again, it's one of those things where you can't get caught up by the glamour. You can't get caught up in surface appearances, because what you see now may look quite different if you give yourself the opportunity to take a pause and sink into the more subtle layers and slow things down, so you can see things as they actually are. All your answers are going to come from the more subconscious realms at this time. When we're looking at the nodes, and this is significant because the nodes are playing a role in what is happening right now with this portal we're slipping through in between that Scorpio solar eclipse and this Taurus lunar eclipse. And it's sort of like these scales, these karmic scales of justice, of Libra. The Libra energy are sort of balancing things out, holding down that liminal space, that in-between space between this earth energy and water energy. All right, it's like that water energy, what we nurture through doing our deep dive into the subconscious terrain, through exploring our dream world, you know, doing our dream work, getting in touch with our intuition by silencing out the opinions, the views, the perspectives of others, and instead getting out of our heads and really sinking into the animal body, like the primal body, where you can sense things, where you can get into a tactical feel of things and allow this energy to inform you. It's really about going to more of this mutable place where things aren't so fixed and it's contradiction, right? It's a bit of a contradiction. Is water, earth. Water is very mutable. 5:55 on the clock when I said that. Water is very changeable. It can take on any form, correct? But earth is pretty solid. It's pretty set in its ways. And, we're also being called to find the balance between these two extremes, between the fluidity and the structure. And it's the same dance we've been going through all year, really, in one way, shape, or form, whether that's been, Saturn square Uranus, or whether we got this action going on between the north and south nodes, and sandwiched with an eclipse, But we are closing up a very important cycle. And there will still be more eclipses to come in 2023 that affect that Taurus and Scorpio axis, okay? But it's going to make a switch in July. In July of 2023, it will shift to Aries and Libra, okay? So all of these dynamics are so much in play right now. So consider this sort of like a preview, a more to come, ... This is to be continued. But there is a very much a closing of a circle that's happening with this full moon, where we're going to be wrapping up what we've been focused on in the last year. And from this point forward, it's all about, okay, now we're really building into the new cycle. We're not there anymore. We closed that up. What we needed to see has been revealed. What needed to come to light has come to light. And now instead, we're going to move into this space where we're going to enter more the realm of just radical trust. If I can use my pine cone as an incense holder, I can. And it's about being innovative, right? Looking at things in a new way, doing things in a new way, getting rid of your kind of set habits, your set stuck way of doing things, switching it up, and there's also a lot of really deep themes that are coming up at this time too, connected with this eclipse period, because when it comes to those north nodes and south nodes of destiny, Scorpio and Taurus haven't been in those positions since 2004. So think about your life back in 2004. Think about the themes that were going on back then. Think about the infinite cosmic mess that was left behind at that time period that never got addressed. There are tinges of it. There are traces of it in what's going on right now. If you think back, if you look back, you'll spot the correlations. You'll see where the dots connect. And I am going to be using the Arcane Bullshit deck tonight. I want to go a little out of pocket. I don't want to do a traditional reading. I get bored with that sometimes. I like to play more on the fringe and just explore and head out there into the ether, and it just feels like the time for it. So that being said, this deck definitely has adult themes that comes through, and I've already made it clear this isn't a channel for kids. So if you're under 18, now would be the time to leave the room, because you shouldn't be on this channel. This is a channel for adults, and for adults to drop in and enjoy themselves and connect and have their chance to have a little play, a little fun, and a little adult conversation. Okay, so please respect the boundary. I appreciate it. So what we're really looking at is just what's going to come in for the collective in this cycle. And boop, there went that incense. Let's see. How can I get one? Let's just do this. There we go. The first way doesn't work, try another way. You'll go back to the drawing board many times and you'll change your mind many times as you move through this cycle. Remember, on the 30th, we do have Mars going retrograde. Okay. So now's not the time to leap into any rash decisions. And certainly, I wouldn't make any moves until you get to the other side of that full moon on November 8th in Taurus. By then, things will be a little more grounded, and you're also going to get a lay of the land as far as any cleanup work that's required. Because I'm not telling you that that eclipse that's coming up in Taurus on November 8th is going to be an easy ride by any means. In fact, it's got a lot of really difficult aspects. I got to tell you, it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. It's going to be a challenging dynamic to move through. But there is this place where we can have an opportunity to really set ourselves up for a big win. And the reason why I say that is we have this wonderful new moon coming in Sagittarius that arrives on November 23rd to kick off Sagittarius season. And that's that big Jupiter energy. And it's all about moving into expansion, but it's even more so this time around because there's going to be a Sagittarius stellium in play. All right. So do look as well at your 9th house in your natal chart. Check out what's going on there. That's going to let you know where your areas of expansion lie. Look at the placements where you have Sagittarius in your chart, okay? Notice the planets you have in Sagittarius. This is going to help you understand what will have the opportunity to move into expansion, a level up where you can see growth in your life. So you really want to be very clear about your moves. And the best way you can prepare with this particular portal we're moving through is not really by doing anything differently than what you've been doing, like stay the course and follow through with things that you have already set in motion. But in areas where you're trying to get a lay of the land, or you're trying to make a decision about what moves you should make, or if you should choose this or that, or go in this direction, or choose a whole different direction altogether, now's not the time to make those kind of choices. Now's the time to just like let it sit and tune into your intuition. Do things that give you an opportunity to get more in touch with the subtle layers where your communication is going to come through right now. I mean, I want you to think about scorpions, okay? They're very sensitive creatures. They're low to the ground, right? They're low to the ground, so they can feel the pulse. They can feel the vibration of things before it arrives. They're alert. They're at the ready. And that's sort of the way you need to be to move through this cycle in the most advantageous way. You need to, have your ear to the ground. You need to listen more, not speak so much, and get in touch with your inner sensations. Notice how your energy is responding to the people around you, to different ideas that come to you, different inspirations that come to you, situations you find yourself in. Even when you're considering choices, get out of the head of it and get more into your body. And notice how your body responds when you present yourself with each of these choices. Where do you feel a gravitational pull? And where is the uncertainty? Where is the confusion? Now, there's a way you can really simplify all of this at this time, and that is just to simply forget about this place of uncertainty. If you're uncertain, it's a no. It's a no. It's a no. Alignment is full on yes. There's no trying to grapple it out. There's no trying to make up your mind, okay? There's none of this shit, okay? There's none of this hang in there. Oh, it will get better someday. It's not always going to be like this. I'm not always going to be in a position of jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. Bullshit. If you're in that kind of a position, it ain't the way. It ain't the way. You got to think about what parts of yourself are you feeding with these wolves, okay? And it's true. We need to feed all of our wolves. We need to be aware of what's going on in our shadow. We feed our shadow by giving it a place at the table, put out a chair for your shadow, invite it to come forward, have a little coffee with your shadow and see what's going on. There is a need to be aware of this. The reason why there's a need to be aware of what's going on in the shadow, what's going on with your subconscious motivations. And do not say, I don't have a shadow. Bullshit. You absolutely do. We all do. We all do, because we are exactly as nature is. Nature is reflected in us, and nature is both shadow and light. And you are a reflection of that. You are shadow and light. And you have these aspects of you too. And you see, there's two aspects of the shadow, though. People just really neglect a whole rich, beautiful, deep part of the shadow. The shadow isn't just negative or unhealthy tendencies. Of course, these are things that can lurk there, things that we're not aware of, things we've repressed, things we've pushed down, things we've denied. And I do have to tell you that that's when the shadow most often rules over us, when we deny its existence. So simply the act of awareness and having that willingness to, okay, I'm going to put out a chair for my shadow. I'm going to invite it to have a seat with me and to inform me about what's motivating me in this situation. What is driving me to go back to this place again and again and again and again, where I feel hung up, where I feel held up, and I keep diving face first into the fire. You don't have to go through transformation like that. And it's interesting because, especially in spiritual communities, there's this idea that you have to suffer to grow, and it's complete and utter bullshit. You can choose suffering or you can choose joy and freedom. It's all up to you, though. It's your mindset, it's how you look at things. And it's not about wandering forward in oblivion. Because when we look at that fool heading out on the new journey, right? We're heading out on a new journey here. We're doing our systems check. We're getting everything together. We're making sure we've tied off all the loose ends. We've got everything taken care of. All right. We know there's going to be one final raising of the curtain. All right. There's still one more illumination to be had. The spotlight's going to be shined down on something we haven't been able to see, something that's been playing out in our life over the past year. It's going to come to some kind of a crescendo. We know this. We also know that sometimes when that light turns back on, it can be a little bit glaring. It can be a little bit jarring. It can shock our senses a bit. It can make us realize, oh my gosh, I have this thing all wrong. So the more that you can kind of understand your place in the picture, and you can understand the place that you're operating out of, what motivates you, the more better you're going to be able to flow with what gets revealed to you at this time. The more ready you will be to move through things in a spirit of acceptance and not needing to go into denial about the reality. And you'll also be able to respond to whatever it is, even if it's something that has the potential to be activating. If you understand where your blind spots are, where your weak spots are, where are those places where it's easy for you to get activated, so you have the tendency to kind of act out of the shadow, want to lash out, want to get your words in, want to prove your point, or step more into kind of your ego and operate out of your pride. This is important to be aware of these things at this time. And instead of just denying, going into denial and deluding yourself and thinking, oh, I don't have any traces of that left anymore. We're all going to have things illuminated for us, ways that we can be more conscious, more aware of how we interact with other people, how we communicate, how we move forward in our lives, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. Because with Taurus in play, which is when we're looking at North Node, it's all about stepping into the manifestation of our visions, the manifestation of the energy that we've poured into what we've been trying to call in our lives. All right. If you've been slacking, you're not going to see that manifestation. If you've been letting certain self-sabotaging aspects go unchecked, you're not going to see that manifestation. When we're looking at Taurus as a North Node destination, we're also looking at this piece of, what do you value? Do you value yourself? Do you value what you've been putting your time and energy into? Do you value the person you're with? What are your values? What will you not budge on at the end of the day? And it's important to be very clear about that. And if you're hanging on in a situation, in a relationship, at a job, anything of this nature, even to an old stuck belief, something that you swore up and down about it, you were on your soapbox about it, and despite seeing evidence to the contrary, you just don't want to lose faith. So you just won't give up this post, things like this, things that are really not in alignment with your value, are really not in alignment with your integrity, and having the conviction to be able to release those things, shed those things, transform those things, and embrace a new way. All right. So let's see what's coming in for the collective. We got the coffin full of tacos, full of snakes. And there's a lot that's been coming up around sexuality, and how could it not when we're looking at Scorpio, right? So a lot of this has to do with, the skeletons in the closet. This could be anything from, sexual kinks you have to things that have been happening on a clandestine level, secret sexual liaisons, hookups, side chicks, side dudes, third parties, messy relations, aspects of your sexuality that you haven't made peace with, areas of your sexuality where you feel like a sense of shame, or where you feel a sense of guilt. Maybe you have a complicated relationship with pleasure. Maybe you haven't been experiencing pleasure. Maybe there's a part of you that you feel has been cut off sexually because there's a certain level of depth that's missing in your sexual connections. Because let's look at Scorpio as well. Scorpio is very much about the depths, okay? Scorpio doesn't do anything on the surface, But this is sort of like looking at those aspects of your sexuality, your sexual expression, how you connect with others intimately, what your preferences are sexually, all of these things, the sexual trauma that you hold in your body. All of these things are coming up to be looked at. And it's sort of like Pandora's box has been sprung open. And there's so much that's going to come forward now. And some of what's going to come forward are these urges that you've had, Lilith energy, like front and center, like the urge for that empowerment of taking charge of your pleasure, of welcoming pleasure into your life, to not feel shame about it, to be a bit rebellious, to have a level of independence in regard to this as well, like taking charge of what gives you sensual pleasure, and also ownership of who you are as a sensual being. All of this is coming up for review and integration. And in some of these cases, you can recognize that there's been a very unhealthy way of connecting with people. An unhealthy way of connecting with people, in essence, that the connection doesn't enhance, but it actually drains the power, drains the life force, drains the vitality, because there's too much of this like codependency within the connection. There's not enough of individual connection to a place of personal empowerment. There's like almost these compromises that are made for the sake of having the validation of sexual connection. to have the validation of sexual attention, appreciation, and understanding the ways that how that can be like a manipulation, but a manipulation that really, in the end, does a disservice to you because it doesn't allow you to have the depth of connection that you want to have. Now, with all of this being held inside for so long and not looking at these things, there is really a need, first of all, in areas where you feel any kind of shame or you have trauma or you have guilt around pleasure, in particularly sexual pleasure, sensual pleasure. There's a need first to really look at how you're holding on to the source of the pain. And that in a big way, this is isolating you and it's keeping you from having the kind of connection that you want to have. And in cases where you did have trauma and you're wading through some really heavy trauma that hasn't been addressed, and you've been kind of telling yourself, oh, it's okay, you know, I can make it through this on my own, I'll be fine, I'm just going to forget about that. You might really want to consider reaching out and getting some support. And there's no shame in that, because it's really time to be free of this, to not be carrying around all these swords, not be carrying around all this pain anymore. Instead, have somebody who can hold this space for you, somebody that you can trust, a counselor, somebody who works in this area that you feel a connection with. And this is so important too. I'm just bringing this in. When you do go and look for somebody to help or somebody to support, you want to connect with somebody that you feel comfortable with, that creates a safe space for you and that doesn't belittle you, that actually empowers you, and you feel strengthened by connecting with this person. You feel that the proper space is being held. And I encourage you, interview the people that you're going to work with on this level. Don't just settle on anybody, okay? It's important to hold this part of you, to witness this part of you. But if you've been holding on to trauma, in particular, if you've been holding on to childhood trauma in relation to something like this, it's time for you to experience the freedom so you don't have to hold this anymore, so you don't have to be holding on to the pain, and you can get to the other side where you can understand that you don't have to feel guilty about receiving pleasure, that you deserve to feel pleasure, that you deserve to feel appreciated, that you deserve to have sexual connection that feels healthy, where you feel respected, where you feel held. You don't have to act out unhealthy patterns. And there's no shame in reaching out for that support. And this can be such a healthy choice that you can make during this cycle if you're somebody who's struggling with any kind of issues like this, because it's the perfect time to do this kind of work. That is foundational work. That is taking the subconscious and making it conscious. And if we don't take the subconscious, it rules over our lives. And like Jung said, we'll call it fate. We'll say, this is just the way it is. I always deal with this. This is the kind of person I meet. These are the kind of relationships I have. These are the kind of sexual connections I have. But it's not true. It's because it's that unhealed place inside that never got witnessed. So it's still trapped there. It's still stuck. It's still stuck in your physiology. It's still stuck in your energy body. Your cells hold records, everything that ever happened to you. We have cellular memory. This has been scientifically established. So I encourage you, like, get the support. Let the pain be witnessed. It's such an important part of healing. And let's say you don't feel like you're even ready for that yet. Let's say I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go and get counseling. I don't want to talk to a therapist. I don't want to do that. Can you talk to somebody who's a very dear, trusted friend? 29:29 on the clock when I said that. You know, somebody who's in alignment with you, somebody that has really had your back, like, you know, you can count on this person. Can you go and talk to them? Can you ask them, can you please just listen? Can you please just witness? You know, I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to give me advice. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I just need somebody to just witness me, in this vulnerability, in this pain I'm feeling, in this anger I have, in all of this that I need to release, because You don't need to keep holding on to this pain because you continue to hurt yourself with this. And it traumatizes you over and over and over again because you're holding on to this within your entire frequency. It's emitting from you and it's drawing more of these kind of experiences to you for you to learn from so you can heal. That's why you keep having these experiences. I know it sounds so cruel, but it's the reality. These experiences continue to come onto your path because they are trying to draw attention to what needs healing. But the moment that you are willing to go there, the moment you're willing to go to that place where you're saying, yes, I can trust, pull I can pull this part of me up to the surface. I'm willing to hold this. I'm willing to look at this. I'm willing to let this be seen. You immediately free yourself from shame. You immediately free yourself from guilt. And that's when the light starts to get into that wound. That's when you start to heal. And it's hard because some of you, this is like religious programming. There's a lot coming up around relating, of course, because we do have this both Taurus and Libra energy really in play in this particular eclipse cycle. And both Taurus and Libra are ruled by Venus. And so we are looking at matters of relating. But what are we also looking at matters of? Look at that Ram energy there, okay? We're looking at matters of Mars, that Aries energy, which is not just about taking initiative, but it's also about war. And Venus also has a history. If you look at the history and mythos around Venus, Venus is known as a goddess of both love and war. And Aries and Libra are opposites. Okay, so it is that balancing of the scales, that balancing of polarities, and this liminal space in between, and learning to work within this space. All right, so relationships are going to be front and center in this cycle, how you relate to the people that are close to you. And absolutely, with that Scorpio energy in play, we are looking at sexuality, how we hold our sexual experiences, how we feel gratified or dissatisfied by our sexual experiences, the parts of us that we want to express sexually but feel uncomfortable about expressing. So we keep them in the shadow, we keep them hidden. We're bringing all this stuff to the surface. And in some cases, it's a matter of there's been such intense religious programming that you've developed this belief construct that doesn't even allow you the pleasure of that sexual exploration. Some of you are freeing yourself of this dogma. You're starting to open your mind to this exploration. And as you do, it's going to bring up a lot of old fears and old resistance. We see this with this big, sexy Satan, okay? There's going to be that part of you that is going to spring forward. This happens anytime when you go to free yourself from something that has held you back, that's had you constricted. Then you can go to this place where, as you start to step out of it and you explore and you open yourself up to allowing your own experience to inform your belief, as opposed to just taking on some established doctrine, you're going to bump up against your fear. You're going to bump up against the program. All right. So for those of you, and I do feel there's a lot of people that are on this journey, their spiritual views are shifting, their spiritual views are changing. There's a lot of people that are opening up. There's a lot of people that are starting to, get in touch with their own psychic awareness, with their own ability to have connection to spirit. They're recognizing, I don't need an intermediary between me and spirit. I don't need to go to a priest. I can speak directly to spirit because I'm connected to that energy. It's all one energy. It's in me and I can access it directly. And yet to have this realization and to step into this kind of unity consciousness and bump up against the old belief programming, which tells you that that's evil to think that you are like God, that you are directly connected to God, that you are one. And yet you were made in his image according to these doctrines. It can be a lot to unpack. it can be a lot to unpack, and it can really have you feeling kind of divided, right? You want to move forward. You want to grow with this double caveman here. You want to grow beyond sort of this um, limited way of viewing these things, that this way of viewing things that you recognize keeps you in this place of dualism rather than unification. It keeps you divided, because then you don't understand that what you're feeling, what's coming up for you, it's all coming up inside of you for exploration and for the potential of alchemy, to transcend this either or kind of mindset, and understanding that it can be all things. And I was given this body. I was given this body with these senses, and I was put in this world that has so many pleasures to embrace, and so many things to take in. And is it so sinful for me to want to enjoy the pleasures of this life, and want to enjoy them in a way where I feel respected, and where I'm respecting the person that's connected to me? There's too much automatic, like associating sexual expression with something that is somehow wrong, and I'm talking about traditional religious doctrine, that really puts a lot of limits and borders around sexuality. But the reality is that sexuality can be a vehicle for spiritual expansion. And we see that when we're looking in the area of Tantra. And so there's this big shift that's happening in the collective, where the collective is starting to question some of their beliefs, and they're starting to question these limitations. They're starting to recognize the programming that we've been kind of fed, this algorithm that's moving us into this place of division. And we understand how when we're in this place of division, that nothing is fruitful. We're noticing that it's just creating more problems. It's creating more difficulty communicating. It's creating more problems in our relationships, the way we connect with each other. It's not sustainable to stay in this place. And so there's people that are starting to really want to have deeper kind of connections. They're feeling this wake up in them. They're wanting to explore the depths of who they are. And that's what this deep dive is about. It's really about us understanding that, we don't need to bite the hand that feeds us with the golden retriever. Okay. The shadow isn't necessarily something to fear, but by us starting to look into all these areas, starting to question some of our beliefs, starting to ask ourselves, why do we feel fear about exploring this or acknowledging who we are as a sensual being? Why do we have this relationship with pleasure? Why is it so difficult for us to connect with another human being on a very deep, meaningful level? These types of things. If we have this fear of looking at the shadow, and if we just want to stay in this place of, oh, it's all light all the time, then we're really biting the hand that feeds us, because the shadow wants to give us the keys to our freedom. It wants to open the way for us so we can move out of that crossroads, so we don't have to have these superficial, kind of connections anymore, that we can understand that sexuality can be sacred. Sexuality can be spirituality. And that goes beyond any kind of doctrine, And for some people, there are people out there that, they have views, they have sexual views, and desires of expression that don't fit in anybody's idea of what sexuality should be. And yet it works for them. And they feel satisfied, and they're able to have healthy connections. So there's this need to really get beyond kind of things that you've been sold, these ideas, things that other people have been putting on you about who you need to be. And it's really coming up in the area of sexuality. This is so front and center. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect this read to focus on this so much, but it is. There's really this need to understand that You know, it's all just meaningless garbage. And so we're kind of being asked to look at, where are we tired of our own shit? You know, that's what it comes down to. It's like this portal is an opportunity um, to have a direct reroute to anywhere but here. So there's this piece about holding space for where is that part of you that is just like, I can't stay in this place one more moment, whether that's a job you're in, whether that's a relationship, whether that's an emotional state that you find yourself in every day, whether that's the state of your health. We do have, I'm telling you, dirty mattress, okay? We do have a lot of stuff coming up around sexuality here. And what I get with this is like, this is coming through really strongly. If you are in a separation and you have not been with your person for a while, and you know that it's done and you're not going to be going for another round of that, and you are still sleeping on the mattress that you two shared with each other, you need to get rid of that. It's time to get yourself a new mattress and clear that energy out, you know? It's so necessary to not hold on to things where there's such a strong psychic imprint, because it almost acts as a block from allowing, you know, a new partner to come in. All right. So look at things like this. Look at where you still need to cut some energetic ties to maybe some lovers that, you know, you did get stung by, you know, where you did get caught with your pants down, where it wasn't the best experience, where you know, you weren't treated with the sweetness that you deserved in your sexual connection. This somehow gave you some kind of complex or some kind of insecurity, you know. And rather than being in this place of, you know, the nip slip poke, you know, where it's like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and feeling angry and you know, vengeful about that, you know. Um, and also, you know, just thinking about you're going to experience some kind of punishment. Maybe you did something, maybe you're the one who treated somebody with less respect. Maybe you haven't been respecting yourself. You know, this is coming up for both masculine and feminine when we got the queen of holes here. You know, it's like maybe some of you have recognized that you did kind of use people sexually, or that you allowed yourself to be used sexually, that you were trying in some artificial way to fill up a certain emptiness you felt inside that really had more to do with you not recognizing who you really are, which is somebody worthy of love, somebody worthy of love. And so you kind of like compromise that, and you realize these cups that you accepted with this gross cup, you know, are really nothing that could have ever quenched anyone's thirst. And yet you were so thirsty for that. You were so thirsty for that validation and that acknowledgement that you just accepted what anyone would offer you. You know, this is about valuing yourself. And this is about being mindful of connecting with people who will value you in return. That's so important, to have this level of mutual respect, even if it is just a matter of, okay, we're friends and we're going to be friends with benefits. There still can be a level of respect there. So this is really about, no matter what your dynamic is, it's about getting clear about getting clear about where you're at and what works for you and what doesn't, and what makes you feel appreciated, what makes you feel valued, what makes you feel respected, and what dishonors you. And if you did make choices in the past that you're not proud of, or you did things that hurt others, or you allowed yourself to be used, you know, whatever side you're on, you know, it's about not thinking you're being punished, you know, not thinking you're being punished because you have like this old belief or this old, you know, dogma that's kind of stuck in your head that was programmed into you about, well, if you're that kind of girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm really feeling like that gets laid on the feminine a lot more than the masculine. But there's also the piece for the masculine, where it's often about needing to like keep up with the bros, you know, needing to look cool with the bros, you know, and kind of taking the emotions out of their connections, and how this has been such a disservice, this kind of programming for men, that has kept them feeling like they can't allow themselves to be open, they can't allow themselves to be vulnerable, they can't allow themselves to feel these emotions, because then they're put in this position of appearing weak to the homies, you know, and how this is something that needs to change. And I think a lot of us are waking up to this, you know, it's that kind of patriarchal conditioning, you know, that we've all been nurturing, you know, and it's so outdated. It's so outdated, you know, and it's time that we mix it up a little bit, you know, with this saxophone fetus, and we birth something new, you know. It's time to get more innovative, get more creative, move beyond these old stuck roles, you know, because it's time to bring an end to this, because we don't have enough spoons, man. We don't have enough spoons. Like the power that these like belief systems have over the freedom of our expression, and certainly in terms of how we connect with others on an intimate level, how we express our sexuality, how we express our individuality. Like this stuff's coming to an end. People are looking at things in a new way. They're wanting to move into more of a creative space in relationship. And so much of this is coming front and center. And it's really about putting an end to this kind of posturing, you know. It's the bro culture is like it's on the decline. Nobody wants this anymore. This is not what's seen as strength. We're getting beyond this need to, you know, have any kind of posturing. It's about getting beyond the surface appearances. It's about not feeling like you have to hide your emotions, because by hiding your emotions, somehow that gives you some kind of special advantage point. It robs us of the sweetness that wants to find its way into our hearts. It robs us of that sweetness. And it's time we really start to open those doors of perception in our minds and break on through to the other side and move into this expansion. So this is really a time about us looking at the ways that we're still tethered to old ideas, old identities, where we're still holding on to old energy, and in some cases, actual physical things from relationships gone by that are, you know, holding us back. And it's time to kind of have a clear out. I want to pull some meme cards here. Just feel the urge to just get some visual images to go along with this, because I feel like images speak so powerfully. And again, like you can lay the foundation at this time. The best thing you can do is not take any radical actions, okay? Just continue following through with what you've been following through, but begin to dive into these more kind of darkly delicious layers of your psychology. Use this time to do some exploration and engage in things that can help you sort of open the doors of perception to this kind of exploration. You know, maybe do some meditation, quiet things down at night, have a bedtime routine, you know, turn off your electronics, light some candles, put on some consciousness raising music. You know, you can tune into different hertz frequencies if you want, or you can put on, you know, any kind of music that helps you relax and let go and move into a state of expansion. You can, you know, just give yourself space to do nothing and just listen, or even better yet, get creative, because creative expression is a wonderful way to get in touch with what you're feeling and what wants to come forward out of you. But there's such a piece right now, just creating the invitation for these parts of you that have been hidden to have an opportunity to come forward. And where you aren't sure what to do, just kind of like put it out there to spirit, to your higher consciousness, however you connect with your source of greater awareness, and just put it out there. Show me what I need to know, send me some signs. Give me a little insight with my intuition. Help me lean into what my next step should be, and just hold off on making any drastic changes. Just do a little follow through with what you already got in motion, but don't do any major switch ups at this time. Okay, just hold off a little bit longer. And once you get to that Sag new moon, you're really going to know what you're stepping into, and you're going to be able to do so in a bold way. And like I said, there's so much opportunity on offer. There's big blessing energy on offer. It's really about, make sure that you are going to be moving forward from a clean place, so that you're not having to have things trailing behind you and getting in the way of you really stepping into the full, fruition of your visualization, everything that you were inspired to bring into being, that you've been pouring energy into, whether you've been pouring energy into your relationship, or you've been pouring energy into a creative project, or you've been pouring your energy into a business pursuit, or whatever you've been building for yourself. Now's the time. Now's the time to make sure you're getting those parts of you cleared away, and getting other people's energy cleared away that's still stuck in your space, so you can be in your own element, be in your own energy. And this is what brings you into alignment. You want to clear all that old stuff away, so you can just have this clean template, and then you can be focused as you charge ahead. Okay. So where you're sitting here going, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. That's okay. It's okay that you don't know what to do. All right. All is going to be revealed to you. There's more to be gained from simply being in that space of not knowing right now. Okay. Because you're going to have to say peace out to some things. Some things are going to need to hit the road. It's going to be time for you to move on and head off in a new direction. There are some things, that you're going to have to let go of. Remember, you're looking at what can you no longer hang out with, what is that place where you need to be anywhere but here. So that means you're going to have to say deuces to some things, right? Because otherwise you're going to stay stuck there, and you don't want to stay stuck there when you're about to head into your glow up. All right. You're about to head into your time to shine. All right. Your time to have that care and that attention that you've wanted. It's really about deciding how you want to move forward from here. Don't let guilt hold you back. Don't let old outdated ideas, dogma, belief structures, stuff authorities put on you, hold you back from what is true for yourself. You're being encouraged to let your freak flag fly. It's okay. Like, let them see who you are. Stop being in the closet. Let people see you as you are. Go ahead and do what makes you happy. Like, do the weird little things that make you happy and make you feel fulfilled. Because do you really want to just present an image, or do you want to move through your life in an authentic way? Again, it's about what you value. It's about what you value, and it's about being in alignment with your integrity. And I know it's not easy to move out of this space, okay? Why must things be this way? Because, it's just the way it is. We have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to experience any kind of reward. There's always a risk when it comes to opening the heart, to living an authentic life. But that's the place we want to build our future from, not from this place of being guarded, still dragging all this old stuff behind us. We're not going to find any fulfillment or satisfaction there, okay? You're like, I don't know if I want to take this call. I don't want to take this call, but the call is coming whether you like it or not, and it's one of those things you can move with it, move through it with grace, or you can resist it. And if you resist it, then you're going to just find the way is so much tougher going. So the sooner that you can accept, who you are, what you truly want, and what's calling you forward, then, you know, you're going to be able to align with your best course of action. And yeah, not everybody's going to be happy about it, but it's what makes you happy. And maybe you do have to stand on your own for a bit with this cat lady energy, but that's okay. As long as you're doing you and you feel like you're in alignment with who you are and what makes you happy and what fulfills you, then that's what it's all about. And so maybe you do spend some time alone for a while, all right? Maybe you don't get to replace that person, place, or thing that you have to walk away from initially. But eventually, somebody reaches out. There is some kind of message that comes in and it opens up a brand new doorway for you. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think there's a lot of you out there that have always felt like you're always watching somebody else, you know, have the kind of relationship you wanted to have, or have the kind of job you want to have, or um, just have the life that you're longing for. And you feel like, why not me? We got this, why you're always when you're always a bridesmaid, but never a bride. All right. And then we have this piece about when your mom tries to be your friend after yelling at you for not taking the hamburger patties out of the freezer like she asked. Okay, so there's that piece, you know, about trying to live up to these expectations and trying to make other people happy, you know, that put these ideas about what you need to do to in order to be, you know, accepted, or in order to be approved, or in order to be loved on. And then you have this when you're ordering a pizza and your broke friend screams, "Get wings too." Okay, so it's like you're used to these situations where you feel like you're always the one that's left out, and you feel like nobody really appreciates you unless you do things exactly as they want you to do them. You're kowtowing to them all the time, and you feel like you're always like having to pick up the slack for everybody around you. But that's all about your value. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the reality of, if you don't value your own company, if you don't value your own time, if you don't value your own way of doing things, your own ideas, your own inspirations, your own desires, how is anybody else supposed to value you? So it's really time to start exploring this. Sink into this. Sink into the deliciousness of this place of exploration as you move through this cycle. And then you'll be ready. You'll be ready to step onto that new path that will be illuminated for you with that full moon when destiny comes calling.